Nice to see some familiar faces as well here. I think as some of you have been coming to my talks before. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Victor. I am a Brown alum. I studied CS Econ, graduated in 2015. I was an international student here. I co-founded the Brown Underground Coffee Shop. I was at the Formula SAE team, did some Taekwondo, did some salsa dancing outside of the curricular work. And when I finished, I went to Apthyamics, kind of a Silicon Valley high-tech startup in San Francisco to work as a software engineer. They got acquired by Cisco in 2017, for almost $4 billion. That was really cool. And then after that, I went to Mercedes-Benz because I love cars. I was like, wait, just need to figure out what to do with cars. And Mercedes-Benz has a research and development outpost in Silicon Valley. So I became a senior software engineer there. After that, I moved across the country to New York, where I joined a small mental health tech startup called Fortet Health, where I also moved into becoming a software engineering manager. And lastly, I was working at LinkedIn as a software engineering manager. There I worked in service infrastructure. And since this February, I am back here at Brown in my capacity as Assistant Dean for Careers in Technology and Tech Ventures. Long title, but essentially I'm helping students break into tech careers, building on my experience for almost 9 years in the software field. Before we dive into the networking part, I want us to zoom out again. If you've seen this before, this is the again part. If you see this for the first time, that's also great. I kind of mapped out the journey to a tech job or internship in these 7 steps. And I want us to look at it again because I think networking is important. It's essentially in every one of these steps. First, you gotta know what tech roles are out there. What are you even interested in applying to? Is it data engineering, cybersecurity, front-end, back-end, full stack, right? There's so many different things. Then you'll find the opportunities based on the roles that you're excited about. You'll research the company before you apply, ideally, in order to maybe tailor your application specifically to that company. You will then apply, you will practice your coding challenges in order to get through the technical interviews. Last week on Wednesday, I held a talk about technical interviews and I put the recording up as well for that. So you can take a look at that if you like. You'll navigate the interviews. We talked about it last time as well. And then eventually you'll evaluate and negotiate your offers. Hopefully you'll have multiple to choose from. So that's what I think of the journey. I have resources for every single one of those in the Career Resources Library, Career Exploration Library, and can help you out with each of these stages as well. But today we're talking about networking specifically. And so I'll talk about the agenda briefly. We'll talk about why networking matters in tech, who to network with, the key benefits of networking, sort of like my step 1, but a little bit more details. Steps for effective networking. So I'm going to teach you specific practical skills. We're going to talk a bit about networking with tech recruiters specifically, because that's sometimes an interesting topic. How to research tech companies in more detail, just a little bit about that as well. The time management, that's often a critical thing, is balancing networking and sending applications, and what's the good split of your time supposed to be. And we'll give you a conclusion and practical next steps, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. We'll have Q&A time in the end, but if you ever have a question in the middle of my talk, please raise your hand and we can talk about this right away. This can be totally a conversational talk as well. So I want to start about why networking matters in tech. It's a question that I often hear, is it really even worth it? The answer surprised me as well, actually, when I came back to Brown, is how important this actually is. It's a really crucial piece in your journey towards the tech industry, and I think it might be more so now than in any other field because the job market is a little tighter. There's a lot of competition, and if you can help yourself by standing out versus your competition in some way, networking can really help you with that. So my goal again is to equip you with the tools today and the confidence you need to navigate the networking landscape and open doors to meaningful career opportunities. So why does it matter so much? First, many jobs are never advertised publicly. They're filled through connections and referrals. Second, the tech industry thrives on innovation and collaboration. So building connections can later lead to collaborations that spark new ideas. So even beyond the job search is really important. Also, networking provides access to opportunities and insights you won't find elsewhere. So it's not just about who you know, but also who knows you. Couple of common myths as well. Let's bust them a little bit. Number one, it's only for extroverts. So a lot of people think networking is all about being outgoing, but that's not true. You don't need to be the life of the party to network effectively. In fact, I think that some of the best networkers are actually introverts. They're great at listening and building deeper one-on-one connections. And when you reach out to folks you want to network with, you are actually going to be listening most of the time. It's going to be about them, getting some information from them in their careers. And we'll go into specific aspects about that today as well. Another myth is that networking seems manipulative or insincere. So some people feel weird about it, thinking it's all about asking for favors. But the real networking is about building genuine relationships. It's a two-way street. And yes, you might ask for advice, but you're also offering your own perspective and experiences as well. It's really about mutual respect and learning from each other. And later on, when you land a job because somebody helped you on the way there, maybe 5 to 10 years down the line, you're having like a senior position, a manager position, and the person who helped you there is laid off because of a company-wide layoff. They might actually reach out to you to ask you for help. So what might seem kind of one-sided in the beginning, over the course of your career, will turn out to be definitely a two-way street. Another myth is good grades and skills are enough to succeed. That's really, those two things are really important, but they're really also only part of the picture, because relationships often open doors that qualifications alone cannot. Many jobs, and especially in tech, get filled through referrals. So building a network that can give you access to opportunities that are not on job boards. So really, it doesn't matter if you're introverted or extroverted. You don't have to collect hundreds of contacts. Just focus on making authentic connections with people. Even if you have a strong resume, having relationships in place will help you stand out and get access to the opportunities that you want. Let's talk about who to network with. So we want to start with the ones that are closest to you and expand outward from that. Friends, family, faculty, the 3 Fs the Career Center often talks about them. They know you well and may have valuable connections, and those are the ones you can start with. For example, your professor might introduce you to a colleague in the industry. Seeing that happen here as well. Plenty of professors are well connected in the industry and might make good connections. Next up, Brown alumni. Tap into the Brown alumni network. They are super eager to help. You can reach out to an alum working at a company you're interested in to learn more about them from this conversation. We'll talk about more as well, like in that sphere, like for alumni specifically. Former current supervisors, just to give you more ideas on who that might be. Even if they're in unrelated fields, they might know somebody who can help. Your part-time job manager might connect you with somebody in tech. Utilizing LinkedIn and other social media platforms to connect with professionals is also a great idea. You can build connections with tech professionals worldwide that way. Warm contacts are the ones who you've met with through events, internships, mutual acquaintances. Maybe you meet somebody at a hackathon. That's a great warm connection you can follow up with. And lastly, don't be afraid to reach out to industry professionals you haven't met yet. Many people are willing to share their experiences if you approach them respectfully. That does really happen. Let me talk about some key benefits. Access to hidden opportunities, increased visibility. I'm literally just going to read this down. We're going to go in depth in a second on each of these points. You get industry insights, mentorship and professional development, enhancing your own soft skills, and long-term career opportunities. So I'm peppering you with a bunch of these because I really want to hone in the various facets of networking that are really, really helpful. Let's start with the access to hidden opportunities. So this always blows my mind, but it's true. And whenever I see a sort of like survey around this, I did some more research on this earlier today on various articles and research on this, on the number of jobs that are never publicly posted. it is truly amazing that up to 80% of jobs are never publicly posted. And that's because they're often filled through referrals and internal networks. So by building your network, you can gain access to these unadvertised opportunities. Like you might connect with somebody at a company you're interested in, and they might inform you about an upcoming position before it's even advertised, giving you a significant advantage. I'll also talk about a story from myself from a year here at Brown that relates to networking in my first foray into networking. So I was a sophomore, it was fall semester, I was starting to look for an internship, and I actually landed a couple of interviews. Maybe the market was a bit easier back then, probably, but I actually didn't prepare well enough for these interviews and really failed them. And I even got into sort of like a vicious cycle where every time I got an interview, I did worse and worse. And I ended up having a first round interview at TripAdvisor back then. It was like late November, it was early on a Friday morning, and in a sort of like act of self-sabotage, I partied really hard the night before, did the interview, it ended in like 15 minutes, it was done very quickly. And I actually let it drop. I did drop my internship search for a couple of months. And March came around, days started to get longer again, I felt a bit better. And my girlfriend at the time kicked me in the butt and said, "Hey, Victor, you still keep talking about getting an internship, but you have to actually do something about it." So she said, "Why don't you go to the Career Center? You've never been." So I was like, "All right, I'll go." And I got a informational interview tip sheet from them that I'll talk about today as well. That changed the course of my career. I had conversations with Brown alums, I think 7 or 8 or so. And one of them connected me to a friend of his who also went to Brown, who worked at a different company that happened to be hiring for summer interns. Still, it was like late March at that point. And that's how I got my first internship. This first internship also led to me having my first full-time job at AppDynamics. That was that. Another key benefit is increased visibility. It does increase your visibility in the industry. When you're staying on the radar of professionals, you are going to be more likely to be thought of when opportunities arise. So you can regularly attend local tech meetups, maybe, or something similar, and professionals in the field will start to recognize you. And when a new position opens up or a new opportunity opens up for collaboration, they might think of you first because you've made that connection. Industry insights. So through networking, especially via informational interviews, you get to gain valuable industry insights. You can learn about the current challenges, emerging trends, and best practices directly from those working in the field or in a specific company. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, you might speak to a professional who can provide you with advice on which courses at Brown help them most in their current job. That's a fantastic question you can ask them. Mentorship and professional development is also really an amazing factor in your career. It can be actually quite transformative having a fantastic mentor. And by reaching out to professionals you admire, you might find somebody who's willing to guide you. They can offer advice, share experiences, and help you navigate challenges. So you might find a mentor who is willing to help you prepare for interviews or introduce you to an influential contact. Enhancing soft skills is also important. Networking helps you develop these, like communication, self-marketing, self-advocacy. If you engage regularly with professionals, you will improve your ability to articulate your thoughts and present yourself confidently. And these skills are really critical in any career, but also especially in tech, where there's a lot of teamwork and collaboration happening. It's also not just about immediate gains. So networking is about building relationships that can lead to opportunities down the line. Connections you make today might lead to collaborations, job offers, partnerships, etc. in the future. And when you maintain those relationships, you will continue to stay top of mind when a new opportunity emerges. Like somebody you connected with now might think of you for a project years down the line. Okay, peppered you with all the benefits. Let's actually look at some steps to do this effectively. First up, Identify your interests and goals. What areas of tech excite you? Is it, like cybersecurity, data engineering, front and back end engineering, or maybe you don't even know yet? That's a focus you can have for your networking experiences to find out more, to hone in on the interest that you have. Set yourself clear goals. Like, are you looking for a mentor, a job opportunity, maybe just general advice? That can help you also figure out how to approach the networking. Figure out your skills, areas, strengths and areas for improvement, because that might help you set yourself up well in a conversation by being able to express your value pretty confidently. So then it's all about finding the potential contacts. Connecting with alumni on Brown Connect Plus and LinkedIn, top spot. Actually, second to top, because friends, family, and faculty should be your number one. Former and current supervisors. So I'm kind of repeating myself a little bit here, but they might know somebody in your field. The online platforms like LinkedIn and social media, and your warm and cold contacts. So we already looked at that earlier. Then it's about organizing your contacts. I recommend you create a spreadsheet, let's see, it might include name, contact info, relationship, date of last contact, follow-up plans, these kinds of things. So to help you stay on top of your networking efforts. And you might identify specific industry areas or interest areas, like you might be interested in the daily activities and work culture of somebody in the field, or their career path on how they got there, or insights about entry-level positions at their company and whether or not they provide a good onboarding experience for you. And if you follow up regularly by setting reminders and reconnecting with them, that keeps the relationship active. And here I want to say, like, oftentimes I hear a question like, how active do I need to be with networking? Like, once I made a connection, like, do I just keep like being their best friend? That's great if you find a really good friend through networking. That's really awesome. But it's really enough to just follow up every couple of months. Maybe you'll follow them on LinkedIn and see when they're promoted or changing a job, and you can congratulate them on that and set up a little catch-up time. Or you took a course that was really exciting and you just want to chat about that with them. That's also really great. So really, every couple of months is enough. I asked the recruiter about this specifically as well. He works at Andreessen Horowitz crypto incubator, and he was like, yeah, just if you can keep your name kind of top of mind, or like in the top 5 to 10 people for them, that's enough. And most people don't do anything to keep themselves top of mind. And being just there for them on LinkedIn, for example, to congratulate them or catch up every now and again is truly enough, which is really nice. Don't have to do it too much. Here's a initial contact template that I created that you can use in your initial outreach on Brown Connect Plus, for example. It says, "Dear Victor, I'm a Brown University student exploring backend engineering as a potential career path, and I'm very interested in learning more about your work at LinkedIn. I'd love to hear about your experience with service infrastructure in more detail." So if I get this, I'm like, oh, cool, this person did some homework. They looked at my profile on LinkedIn. They saw I worked in service infra and have a specific question about that as it relates to backend engineering. Nice. If you're available, would you be open to a brief phone conversation to discuss your professional journey? For your convenience, I've included my Calendly link to help find a time that works best for you. Alternatively, I'm happy to adjust my schedule if you share a few of your available time slots. I'll share the networking tip sheet with you later that doesn't have Calendly in it. It just has like a couple of times that you can suggest. But I found Calendly to work quite well. Show of hands who has never seen Calendly before. Awesome. So I'll show you that right now. So in Calendly, what Calendly does is it automatically syncs with your Google Calendar and suggests times when you're available to meet. So if I am like an alum that you reached out to and you provided this Calendly link, I can go in and immediately schedule a time with you as a student. It syncs up, it's automatically only got the times that I'm available, and it's just an easy scheduling tool. There's a free version of Calendly that allows you to do one single meeting type, which is enough. You just need this 30-minute meeting and off you go. And what I like about this, let me go back to the presentation. When you see, when I, as an alum, see something like this, I'm like, wow, this person made it really easy for me to help them out. I can directly schedule a meeting with them. That's awesome. I don't have to do the back and forth scheduling conversation. I can just go in and do that. I had an intern working for me this summer who did a lot of alumni outreach, and we experimented a little bit to include a Calendly link versus just a couple of availabilities. And we found that it vastly improved the response rate to include a Calendly link in here, sometimes to the point of like my intern wouldn't even receive a response to the email. Somebody would just like schedule a meeting on his calendar and it was done. So that's pretty cool. Any questions on Calendly? All right, so you made the initial contact. I gave you the email example. Now it's time to have the conversation. Know what you want to ask. Like you might prepare questions about the most useful programming languages to learn or other things. Do begin and end with gratitude. Thank them at the start and the finish. Then listen actively. Focus on their insights. Listen carefully, and you might even pick up on cues that can lead to deeper conversations. Here's the more like, hey, I'm not super the life of the party. This is great. I can go in and just like have them talk about their experience. Perfect. I can listen actively. This listen actively is a skill that you need in your career anyway. Any sort of collaboration with customers or partners or stakeholders will eventually turn out to need to understand their deeper desires and what they actually here for, what they actually want. So this listen actively is a good skill. And keep the focus on them. So many contacts will ask you questions about your education, background, and other experiences. And you can answer that. But try to be brief and to the point and get back to your questions as soon as possible. And remember, the goal is to learn from their experience and build a genuine connection. So here are a couple of sample questions to ask. What's your typical day like? Is there a typical work schedule? Gets great into their like day-to-day, as you can see, if you're deciding between a couple of different jobs that you want to pursue. What type of training is provided for a new employee right out of college? What do you like most about your work? What do you find most challenging? Getting into the kind of like challenges and interesting stuff. The next two are pretty similar. What background skills or experiences are necessary? And are there particular courses I should take? Does a particular concentration or major? And another really powerful one is, can you recommend someone else whom I might talk to? Just like passing you on to another contact in like a warm referral way is a really great thing. There are more sample questions there in gobrown.edu/career networking. We'll look into this career networking tip sheet in a couple of minutes as well. Then follow up. So after the meeting, send a thank you note to express appreciation of their time. Mention some specifics like something you discussed to make this note personalized. For example, I was particularly intrigued by your insights on machine learning applications in healthcare. Nice. Then pursue your leads. Act on any suggestions or referrals they provided. If they recommended a contact, reach out to that person. Update your records by noting key points and next steps in your spreadsheet. And if you haven't already, send them a connection request with a personalized note on LinkedIn and Brown Connect Plus. So some practical skills on the actual act of networking. I want to switch to networking with tech recruiters because I get that question quite often from students. And it's pretty important because, or it can be, it's tough sometimes to reach them because they're so inundated with connection requests. But if you can, I think it's a really good thing because they're often gatekeepers to opportunities. They will know about openings before they're advertised. And they can provide you with insider knowledge that can offer specific insights into the actual hiring process. Like they might inform you about the specific skills they're prioritizing in this hiring season, for example. And a good relationship can really enhance your candidacy because by building a rapport with the recruiter, you might be fast-tracked through the initial screening stages. So it can be a pretty strategic move in your job search. There's some kind of types of outreaches that I kind of distinguish here: proactive and reactive outreach. Proactive outreach is proactively reaching out to engage with recruiters. So for example, you might send them a LinkedIn message saying, hey, recruiter's name, I'm a CS student at Brown. My project on XYZ mirrors company's work. Excited to explore how we can innovate together. Best, your name. This should fit into the 200 or 300 character limit on LinkedIn. Can be short and sweet like that. Just something to entice them a little bit. And at career fairs, you can stand out by asking and engaging in meaningful conversations. Like, you can ask them questions about their experience in the company culture. Instead of just handing over your resume, you might ask them, hey, what do you enjoy most about working at your company? And just having a little bit of a conversation that way to be remembered. Yeah, and the goal again is to make a memorable and positive impression. The reactive outreach part is also really good. So during the interview process, you can ask insightful questions like, what qualities do successful candidates typically exhibit? Or can you share more about the team I'll be meeting with? Doing this here, can you provide you with some valuable tips that will help you during the interview? Get primed yourself for the interview. And after the interview happened, you can send them thank you notes to express appreciation, reinforcing your interest. You can pass these thank you notes on to the interview committee that interviewed you, for example. You can mention specific aspects of the role or the company that excite you, and you can say something like, I'm particularly excited about the prospect of working on your AI initiatives, for example. Something that's more personalized. So that's recruiters. Quickly on researching tech companies, it's a pretty critical part, I think, of your preparation, because you get to understand the company's mission and values, and you can start aligning them with your own to strengthen your candidacy. So if a company values sustainability, you can highlight any projects you've done in that area in your application. When you explore their website, you can learn about their products, services, and recent news, which is really good. Then you can go a little bit deeper and look at the company culture, for example, on Glassdoor or LinkedIn, or look at some industry news. You can, again, align your skills on how your background fits with their needs and culture. And when you follow them, let's say on social media, you can stay updated on their latest developments. And if you mention like a recent product launch that you saw on social media during your interview, you can really impress your hiring manager. So another little tidbit to stand out in an interview. Okay, time management. This might surprise you. It didn't surprise me, but then when I thought about it, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We do recommend that you spend about 70% of your time on networking and 30% on submitting actual applications. And that's because relationships often lead to opportunities that aren't available through traditional application processes. And if you focus on networking, you enhance your visibility and increase your chances of getting referrals, which significantly improve your chances of landing a job. I think this was particularly underutilized maybe in the last 2 years or so, like 2 years ago, when it was really easy to send us application and get a job or internship. And it affected me as well. Like, I also kind of stopped networking in that time as well. And now I'm realizing, oh, my network is kind of a little thinner than I want it to be. So I would like to come back to this as well. The whys, everything that we already mentioned, just to hone in the really important parts of the network. So let's put it all together. It's not just a destination. Networking is really a journey. Be proactive, be persistent, be patient. Every connection really is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to advance your career. And if you follow these steps and maintain genuine relationships, you'll build a strong professional network that supports your career aspirations for a long, long time. So think of it like planting seeds. Some might grow quickly, leading to immediate opportunities. Others might take time to develop, but can result in really significant career moves later on. I invite you to take some action today or this week. Reflect on your interests and goals to clarify them. Reach out to some potential contacts. Explore, maybe you attend some events or join a professional group or engage in new conversations. Maybe you can set yourself a goal of contacting 3 to 5 people this week. And let's take a look at this career networking tip sheet that I've been keep coming up. So if you haven't seen this yet, that's the one. It's a 3-pager. It's all of the things that we talked about, the different steps, finding potential contacts, organizing them, making the initial contact. Here's the older version where you're saying like what works best for you instead of the Calendly link, so you can update that yourself. And it has a really fantastic bank of questions that you can ask. If you feel like, oh, I don't know how to continue a conversation or like follow up well on something that they asked, you can just switch to a new topic. And you can focus on certain things like the daily activities in the work culture or the career path that they took to get there. Sorry, it's pretty small, but I'm going to share this with you as well. And lastly, it's got this really good sample closing in here. It says, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today. Our conversation has been very helpful. I'm still looking for a job or internship in this field, and I'm wondering if you have any specific suggestions or advice that could help my search. This is a very open-ended question, which I really like because it can lead to somebody saying, yeah, let me just refer you to this position internally. So we have that. Or they might say like, we're not hiring right now, but I just had lunch with a friend yesterday who I happen to know works at a different company who's hiring right now. Let me connect you to them. It might also be the case that you know that they're hiring, but the person you reach out to might not know about the internal position. So if they say something like, no, I don't know, you can go a little bit beyond it and they say, hey, I just noticed that there's a position open at your company. I applied there and I would really appreciate any help you have or any advice for making my candidacy stand out even more. So definitely try that out. Okay, so we talked about why networking matters in tech, who to network with, the key benefits, a couple of steps for effective networking, how to network with recruiters, researching companies in order to find out more about them and helping you in your application process, a little bit about the time management, and some actionable steps. I want to zoom back out to the journey to a tech role internship because I want you to see now that we learned more about networking, that it really does touch all of the different steps in here. Whether you're exploring what tech roles are out there in order to figure out what suits your interests, to finding the right opportunities, right? Not just in job boards, but really through these hidden opportunities as well. To researching the company and asking more about what's the day-to-day like there. To helping you craft your application so that you're standing out even more. You can even learn a little bit about which coding challenges you can focus on most. How to navigate the interviews when you're networking with a recruiter and asking what's the best way for me as a candidate to stand out in this interview. Even down to evaluating and negotiating offers if you have friends who may be 2 years out or so working at the same company and they can give you some insights about what their salary is. There's a hyperlink you might notice on top. So there is a resource that is this 7-step journey that you can find in here that has more deeper links into more resources for every single one of these steps that you might find interesting. So just so you know that they're there. And that's really the end of my talk about networking today. So yeah, please scan this survey to complete that. It's the sort of like post, the same version as you did before, but now afterwards. And otherwise, I'm happy to field some questions. Any thoughts? Yeah.
How would you say this applies to people who are looking for roles more on the tech venture side rather than in big tech?
Can you tell me a bit more about the tech venture side you're interested in?
Smaller companies.
So the question, by the way, if not everybody heard, is like, how does this networking apply to the tech venture side rather than maybe bigger tech companies?
Yeah.
So I think it's especially important for smaller to medium-sized companies because the roles that they think of hiring are even less often posted on actual job boards and more often hired internally or through referrals. Their hiring cycle might not follow the big tech hiring cycle of everything happens in the fall because their budget is not predetermined that way that for big tech companies. So for that reason, I think it's even more important for smaller companies. Plus, Networking like this and getting like warm connections to other folks in that field will expose you to smaller companies that you might have not otherwise found as well. So you might find interesting opportunities that way as well. Did that answer your question?
Yes,
I
thank
think
you.
that was a good question. Yeah.
So I've had like a couple of initial networking calls with like company professionals where I asked them about like how they got there and like any advice they have, but then like I don't really know how to go about following up. Like there wasn't really anything that we connected on outside of just like the standard networking questions that I could follow up with.
Yeah, so the comment is here like, hey, I did a couple of networking calls, but seems like it kind of and like fizzled out nowhere. Like I don't know how to really like follow up on that, right?
Yeah.
And that can happen sometimes. Like it might be the case that you're reaching out to somebody who just doesn't feel like having like it just didn't click that well, but that's okay. That's part of it. And others you might click a little bit more. And something you can ask at the end of your interview with them is like, hey, I really liked this conversation. I'd love to stay in touch. Like, do you think I can schedule something again in like a couple of months or something like that, just to reach out and just chat about what's new with you? And that's cool as well. Follow them on LinkedIn, maybe engage with their content on there if they have something like that, right? Can you see how that might, yeah, there might be conversations like that are more like kind of leaning towards the sort of like more fruitful follow-up conversations after that?
Yeah, I guess I just don't really know what I would talk about with them in the follow-up conversation.
Totally. So the comment is like, I'm not sure what I would talk about in the follow-up conversations with them. I think that's also common. It's like, hey, it's just like, I don't even know what to talk about. But they might be interested in the coursework that you've done or any cool project that you've done. You might keep them updated on the new kind of job roles or job titles that you're starting to become more interested in. Ask them for people who they might know who they can connect you with, for example. So I think there's a couple of different ways to go about this. And if you ever want to talk a little bit more one-on-one with me on this as well, and that counts for everybody here, I have one-on-one appointments on Handshake where you can schedule these career conversations with me. I also have open hours most Thursdays at 4 p.m. at the Career Center where you can come and talk about this as well. But I'd be really happy to just like look at your conversations so far in more detail, the people who you've networked with so far, and help you with strategies on keeping those conversations live.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. Do you meet with master students too, or only undergrad students?
I meet with masters. This is a very strange thing where the Career Center told me to meet with master students only in my open hours because the master students have their like the Stu School of Professional Studies has their own like career counseling. So for one-on-one appointments, reach out to the SPS. Open hours, you can totally come. You can also always come to these events and watch them as well. But that's like, yeah, that's our policy at the moment for one-on-one appointments. So please come to my open hours if you're a master's. We'd love to see you. Yeah.
You mentioned reaching out to tech recruiters. How do you recommend we find tech recruiters?
Totally. I think a good way is to go on LinkedIn and literally just search tech recruiter in like for people who find their positions. Another way to go about this is like you go and like find a company that you're really interested in. Unless it's a really tiny startup that outsources their recruiting to like a bigger recruiting firm, they might have recruiters working like for them, like in bigger tech companies as well. So you go on like XYZ company page on LinkedIn, and you go in the people tab and you can search for them. So let's actually look at an example together. So if you go to LinkedIn, do you have a company in mind?
Google.
All right, so Google as a company hopefully will find a lot of folks who are recruiters. But here, I go on their website and I go to the people tab. And yeah, there's a lot of associated members for Google. What if I say tech recruiter? Let's see what pops up. All right, more than 1,000 folks who are tech recruiters at Google. So this is how I find them. Similar for any other company. Yeah. Maybe some of them studied at Brown, that would be cool. So let's see, so on LinkedIn, you can only do one keyword search at a time, so it's a little tricky. So where you can also see where they live, where they studied, which is also really cool. So It's not easy to find Brown in here because it's probably somewhere down there. But what they do, maybe you can just keep them at the human resources. And then you take out the tech recruiter part. I don't know if that updated. I say Brown University. Oh, let's do this. And tech. That actually works. Let me see. Dang. I think I have to start over.
Can you click on add where they studied?
Oh, thank you. You taught me something today. All right. This is good. I don't know why we're like back at like a strange sort of
You might have to reload the page.
yeah, I keep reloading it and it doesn't work. There you go. All right, we're back. Where they study at. Why did I never see that? I love that. All right, so you can see Brown University. And then, yeah, you might search for Tech Recruiter now. Oh, bad luck. But that would be one way to see if they actually go to Brown as well. What about just Recruiter? Oh my God, one member. 2 members. Okay. So yeah, there you go. So I think LinkedIn is a pretty powerful search tool. Who shouted out the ad? Thank you so much. This is awesome. This is gonna help me a lot. Did that answer your question? Awesome. Cool.
Wait, how do you reach out if you only have like the 5 free a month?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think sometimes what you can do is like, especially if it's a Brown alum, you can cross-reference them. The question was, how do you reach out if you have like the 5 a month limit? Sometimes you can cross-reference them on Brown Connect Plus, for example, and reach out that way. Other times, sometimes the folks, even if you're not connected to them, will have something in their contact info that is not just their profile. Like I've seen people put their emails and phone numbers in here sometimes. And otherwise, I know it's a pain because premium is pretty pricey. Yep. There's some ways around it. I saw a hand up right there. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, where do you recommend we reach out? Would it be by email or on LinkedIn? And who prefers email?
Question is like, do you reach out with email or LinkedIn, and maybe Brown Connect Plus as well could be in there? I recommend you actually cross post in as many platforms as possible to increase your chances of reaching them. So if you find a specific person you want to talk to and they're also a Brown alum, send them a LinkedIn like connection request with the 200 character limit. You can do that, or you can send them a connection request. Many of them just like accept. And then you can send them a longer message in LinkedIn, but then also see if you can find them on Brown Connect Plus and reach out through that way as well. So my suggestion is to increase the number of ways you might reach them by messaging them in various different platforms. Yeah, good question. Awesome. Yeah, I have one in the back there. Question is, since recruiters receive dozens or even hundreds of messages, is there a way to stand out? Right, did I get that right? So I think a short peppy message like I presented earlier is a really good way to just like message them. I think it's gonna be this one here. I think it's gonna be harder to reach recruiters than Brown alums. You're right that they're oftentimes getting a lot of messages, and it's really hard to get them to respond to you, especially nowadays after a lot of recruiters were laid off. They're now suddenly starting to pick up all the slack again, having to recruit for their companies, so they're not having an easy time either. I would say that if you can find a Brown alum who, let's say, is a software engineer at Google, and you have a conversation with them, you might ask them if they would be willing to pass on a message to the recruiter in their team. So that's an internal way to get to them. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend, if you see like an open role for a company that you like, would you recommend just applying right away and like networking after, or would you recommend networking first so like maybe like get a referral?
So because things move quite fast, the question was, if I see a role that I like, should I apply first and then try to network, or network first and then see if I can get a referral and then apply? Because things are moving so fast sometimes these days, I would say apply right away. Send in your application in a cold fashion, just regular application essentially. And then see if you can get somebody on the phone as well internally, because those referrals that then somebody puts in after the fact you applied also still count just as much as before. So essentially, yeah, apply first because you then at least are landing in the applicant pool that is relatively in the early applicant pool. And that I mean by that is like in the first 2 to 3 days should be like plenty. Sometimes I hear, unfortunately, companies are like sending out always like in the first couple of hours of opening and then just kind of like tapers off. But in that case as well, like even let's say like you're landing in an applicant pool rather late, having somebody on the inside who you networked with and gave you a referral will still count so much that you will still get like like you will still be a candidate that gets an OA, like an online assessment after the fact.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Welcome. Okay. So I'll stop sharing. We'll stop the recording as well here. Thanks so much.